Hello everyone, this is Andrew from Crown Academy of English, and today we are going to do a grammar lesson, and we are going to discuss nouns in the plural. So we are going to look at some regular nouns and some irregular nouns. So let's get started. So we're going to start with the easy ones. So let's look at the regular nouns. And the basic rule is that we simply add an S to the end of the noun to make it plural. So, for example, house in the singular is houses in the plural. So you can see here, we simply add an S to the end of house. And some other examples: coat, coats; dog, dogs; ship, ships. Okay. Road, roads, and many more examples. So this is the basic rule. This is probably the majority of nouns in English are just regular nouns, and they follow this rule where we simply add an S to the end. Okay. Now, since this lesson is a grammar lesson and not a vocabulary lesson, then I won't be defining these words. Okay, so if you don't know what these words mean, then I suggest that you look in a dictionary. Okay, that is not the aim of the lesson today. The aim is to teach you the grammar rules, not to teach you the vocabulary. All right. So the first exception to the rule, so the first type of irregular noun is the group of nouns which end in ch, sh, s, or an s sound, x, or z. So for all of those nouns, in the plural, we form the plural by adding es to the end. So, example: church, churches; dish, dishes; bus, buses; box, boxes; buzz, buzzes, and many more. So these all have the same rule. So we simply take the singular form, and in the plural we add es. So there is an extra syllable when we pronounce it. So you should be able to hear it. In the singular there is one syllable, church, and in the plural it's churches. So two syllables, churches; dishes, buses, boxes, buzzers. So it's important that we hear the extra syllable when you pronounce it. So now, nouns which end in the letter Y. First of all, if the noun ends first of all in a consonant and then the letter Y, then in that case we change the Y to an I and then we add ES to the end. So an example: lady, ladies. So you can see here in the singular, the end of it has a consonant, so the letter D is a consonant, followed by the letter Y. And so we follow the rule. We change this Y to an I, and then we add ES. So city, cities, baby, babies, ferry, ferries, and there are many more. Okay. Now there is another case here, there is another example of, we can also have nouns that end in a vowel and then the letter Y. And here it is just like a regular noun, so we add a letter S to the end. So a reminder, a vowel is the letter A, E, I, O or U. Okay? So boy, boys, day, days, key, keys. Okay? And again, there are many, many more. So this is not, these are not the only ones. This is just a very small sample. There are many more examples here. So the rule, when the noun ends in Y, if it is a consonant and then the letter Y, then we must add, we must change the Y to I and add ES. And for all the other cases, when it ends in a vowel first, then we just add the letter S. Okay, and this time we are going to look at nouns which end in the letter F or FE at the end. Okay, so there are a list of nouns now that I'm going to give you, which you must learn because these are irregular. So the nouns which you are going to see now, the rule is that we replace the letter F, or if it is FE, we replace that with VES. Example: leaf, leaves, shelf, shelves. And listen to the pronunciation. Okay, the pronunciation, we must hear the letter V in the plural. Life, lives, wife, wives, calf, calves, elf, elves, half, halves, knife, knives, loaf, loaves, self, selves, thief, thieves, wolf, wolves. All right, so in all of these examples that you can see here, they follow this rule. So we change the F VES. Okay, or if it ends in FE, like here, knife, then the FE changes to VES, and we say knives. Okay, so these are the exceptions, and for most of the other nouns, okay, so pretty much the rest of the nouns which end in F or FE, then they are just regular nouns, and we just add S to the end. So just two examples: roof, roofs, and giraffe, giraffes, and many more. Okay, so my advice for you for nouns ending in F or FE, my advice is for you to learn this list here at the top. These are the most common examples of nouns where you have to change the F into VES. Okay, so if you learn this list at the top, then you know all the other nouns are just regular. Okay, so this list at the top is the exceptions. Okay, these are the ones where you have to change it to VES, and all the others, or most of the others, we just add an S. Okay, let's carry on. Now, nouns ending in the letter O. So this is a little bit more complicated. So we'll start with the easy part first. So the easy part is the nouns which end in a vowel and then the letter O. So those are the vowels. And this is easy. We just add a letter S to the end. So we treat them like a regular noun. So just a couple of examples here. There aren't many examples of this. So we have radio, and this becomes radios in the plural. So we just add an S. So we can see here the end of the noun has a vowel. The vowel is the letter I, followed by the letter O. And so we follow this rule. We add a letter S. So radio is radios. And zoo is zoos in the plural. So again, the letter O is a vowel, followed by an O, and so we just add a letter S. There are a few other examples of this, but there aren't very many, to be honest with you. The important one is nouns ending in the letter O with a consonant. So a consonant plus the letter O. We have, first of all, we have some irregular nouns. And for the list that you are going to see, we add ES to the end. So you must remember this list. Okay, you must learn this list of nouns. So potato, potatoes. So the pronunciation is the same. There is no difference in the pronunciation. It is the same pronunciation as if there was just an S at the end. Tomato, tomatoes. hero, heroes, echo, echoes, veto, vetoes, or veto, yeah, it's pronounced veto in fact, and vetoes. Torpedo, torpedoes, embargo, embargoes, buffalo, buffaloes, domino, dominoes, mosquito, mosquitoes. Alright, so just before we carry on, so all of these nouns on the left, again, you must learn this list. Okay, so these are the exceptions. These are the irregular nouns which end in the letter O. So for all the others, okay, so for all the other nouns, some of the others, we must just add a letter S. So some of the others, they are just regular. We just add a letter S. And some of the others, we can choose to either add a letter S or ES. Okay, so both would be correct. Either would be correct. So since both would be correct, then to make it easy for us, then we are just going to add an S for all the others, because that makes it more easy. Okay, so for example, casino, casinos, photo, photos, solo, solos, volcano, volcanoes, tornado, tornadoes, and many more. Okay, so again, just to summarize, learn this list on the left, okay, so that you know these nouns here in this list, in the plural, you have to add ES. And in all the other cases, in all the other nouns, then just add the letter S. Okay, that makes it easy for you. Just add a letter S. And in fact, these words here, this list will always stay the same, because these are quite old words in the English language. All new nouns, all new words which end in O in the English language, they follow this rule on the right. So we will always add S to new nouns which end in O. So all you need to do is just to learn this list, and any other nouns just add an S to. Now, in the English language, there are sometimes we have a few words which come from Latin and in fact Greek as well. So they have a slightly different rule in the plural. So there are some Latin nouns which end in US, and for those nouns, the plural, it is a Latin plural, and the Latin plural we add a letter I. So we change the US to I. And there are a few examples here. So nucleus is nuclei, cactus, cacti, fungus, fungi, radius, radii, stimulus, stimuli. Whoops. So you can see there that again we change the US and we change it to an I. There are maybe a few other examples, but these are probably the most common. Okay, so just a reminder, these are English words, but they have a Latin origin to them. So we use the Latin rules to make the plural. And we also have another group of foreign words which end in is in the singular. And for those words, the plural, we change the is to es. So, example, axis becomes axes. So we pronounce it e's at the end. Axis, axes. Analysis becomes analyses. Crisis, crises. Diagnosis, diagnoses. Hypothesis, hypotheses. Thesis, theses. And again, these are not very common words, so do not panic, do not worry too much about these. But it is important that you know that these words in the singular, when it is is, that they become es. It is useful if you see these words written, that you know, for example, if you see the word analyses, es, that you know it is come from the word analysis, is, in the singular. And all of these are Greek, except the top one. This axis is Latin, and all the others are Greek. In fact, they have a Greek origin to them. And finally, for the foreign nouns, we have some nouns which in the singular end in ix or ex, and in those cases we change the ix or the ex and we replace it with ices. So for example, appendix, appendices. So we can see here the ix here. We have removed that and we have replaced it with ices. So listen to the pronunciation. Matrix, matrices. So isses, we pronounce it isses. Matrices. Index, indices. Vertex, vertices. Okay, so again, do not worry, these are not very common words. Well, perhaps index, that is probably the most common. And again, these are Latin words. They are from the Latin language, and so we follow the Latin grammar rules in the plural for these words. There are perhaps a few other examples as well, but these four are the most common. There are maybe another 4 or 5 examples in the English language, but nothing too important, okay? And irregular nouns, so there are some nouns in English which do not follow any rules at all, and you simply just have to learn these nouns. They are completely irregular. So foot, feet, child, children, man, men, woman, women, goose, geese, mouse, mice, person, people, tooth, teeth, ox, oxen. So again, there is nothing really that I can explain here. There is no logic or rules here. You simply have to learn this list. Okay? So again, look in the dictionary if you want to know the meaning of these words. And a lot of these words are actually very common. Okay, apart from ox is an animal and it's not very common, but the rest are very common words, in fact. So this list is important. Okay, I recommend that you learn this list. And finally, there are some nouns in English which are exactly the same in the singular and the plural. Okay, it's quite a unique situation, but there are a few. So aircraft, we can say 1 aircraft or 3 aircraft. It's the same. Spacecraft, so 1 spacecraft, 3 spacecraft. Hovercraft, hovercraft. So you can see here, any word which ends in craft, 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 it is the same in the singular and the plural. Sheep, sheep, so 1 sheep or 3 sheep, it's the same. Fish, fish, so you never say fishes, for example, and you never say sheeps. Sheeps, that would be wrong. Okay, 1 sheep, 2 sheep. 1 fish, 2 fish. Deer, deer. So these are all animals here. We've got sheep, fish, deer. Moose, moose. Okay, so I'll just go back very quickly. So again, there are a few others here that exist as well, but these are the most common. These are the most common nouns which are the same in the singular and the plural. Okay, so that is the end of the lesson. There in the lesson we have seen probably 90% of all the rules for how we form the plural for nouns. Okay, so we have seen 90% of the most common examples, and the other 10% aren't very important. So if I had to explain all of them, then the lesson would take hours and hours and hours. But that is most of the examples. So there we are. That is the end of the lesson. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to subscribe, then go ahead and click on this button here on the screen, and then you will be notified of all my new videos. If you would like to follow me on Twitter, then here is my Twitter account. On Twitter I give regular vocabulary lessons every day, or give you some news about my channel, or some advice on learning English. So that is my account name there. And here we have just 2 other videos which you might perhaps want to watch. You can click on the screen here as well. This is a listening lesson on the left, and on the right that is a vocabulary lesson. So there we are. That is the end of today's grammar lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Andrew from Crown Academy of English. Thank you very much. Bye bye, and I'll see you next time.